you have no power here because we or I do not accept your authority. Good day. And so a giant crowd came, and a single soldier had to make the decision whether to shoot the joyous and elated Germans or open the gate. Hi, and welcome to And If Love Remains. I'm your host, Mike Levitt. There's a real misconception among those naive to religion that those of us who believe in the roughly traditional Judeo-Christian based God or religion, that we think that there are two great powers in the world, God and the devil, right? And kind of like a Marvel movie, these two great powers, fight each other over control of the inhabitants of the earth, and some follow Satan or the devil, and some follow God, and at the end of the day, it ends up being this big war. Well, that's actually not what most religious people believe. It's clear from the Bible that God is sovereign and that He is above the devil, and we see this in a couple instances. For example, God curses the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Now, you wouldn't curse something if you didn't have authority over that thing. Jesus commands Satan to depart. He also teaches his disciples how to cast devils. So in other words, it's not a God versus Satan thing. It's an Adam versus Satan thing, or more specifically, a human versus devil thing. And what I take away from it, here's the interesting thing about that. There is no war. There is no battle. It's just words. If you listen to what happens in these scriptures, it's leave, Satan. You have no power here because we or I do not accept your authority. Good day. That's it. So, kind of an odd way to start this podcast. Why would we start a discussion on sovereignty in a religious way? Well, it's because we get many of the stories in history all wrong, and it's because of this misconception of good versus evil. That kind of a thing. Let me give you a couple examples from the Cold War. When we think of the end of how the Cold War ended, we tend to think of Kennedy, Reagan, Thatcher, Gorbachev, the so-called great leaders who wisely guided us step by step into a peaceful new world. That's kind of what we think of as how, there's so many close calls, and we can listen. There are tons of historians that can talk about that aspect of it. I think of it differently, though. I don't see it that way. Here's what I see. I see a group of Polish workers in 1980 who finally said to the evil empire, leave our country. You have no power here because we do not accept your authority. And the Soviet Union, who had been bogged down in Afghanistan, didn't want another Afghanistan. So they wanted the Polish communists to put down the Solidarity movement. And at some point, they're just not willing to fire on their own people. That's the bottom line. They're just not willing to do that. At some point, it's like, well, why don't we just live our own lives? And yeah, maybe we shouldn't be dictated by some foreign power. I see thousands, again, back to the Cold War. Here's a second example. I see thousands of East Germans who, because of a mistake by a Soviet middle manager, thought that the Berlin Wall would be open and they'd be able to see their relatives for the first time in decades. And so a giant crowd came, and a single soldier had to make the decision whether to shoot the joyous and elated Germans or open the gate. Now, like many people, I love Ronald Reagan's Gorbachev opened the gate speech. It actually, every time I hear it, it evokes, true emotion from me. It's very powerful. But here's the truth. Gorbachev didn't open any gate. He opened nothing. It was the people of Germany with a not so false hope who said, open the gate or we'll open it for you. You have no power here because we no longer accept your authority. All right, so here we are in 2021, and the same question is on the table. Who is sovereign? And that's the question when a group of Southwest pilots resisted an illegal and immoral order from a president demanding they submit to a drug, because pandemic and stuff. Now, I'm not going to discuss the safety or efficacy of the drug in question. That doesn't matter. What matters is who is sovereign. When is no just plain no? And in that context, I talk about the Southwest Airlines pilots because they've been big in the news. But just before that, it was the courageous doctors and nurses who are at this moment, I believe, being let go in New York because they had the audacity to say, no, I won't comply. You have no power because I do not accept your authority. And they do that at great cost. But they do it. I mean, that's truly having, it's individuals making individual decisions for themselves, but it's the larger picture of asserting that the sovereign people, it's the people that are sovereign. And so, and it's funny, like the flaccid guard at the Berlin Wall, the CEOs of these companies try and split the baby by saying they will comply with the president's order, but they won't fire anyone. Well, history will spit these lukewarm people out of their mouth. And I got to tell you, here's the crazy thing. You want to know what's really crazy about this? There is no order. Nothing has been signed. OSHA has not begun regulating this executive order. Like the power of the devil, it is not even a ghost. It is the figment of the imagination of sociopathic madmen who want private companies to do their dirty work because they know a mandate will not pass constitutional muster. It is a bluff of epic proportions, and the Southwest Airlines pilots are calling them on it in a big way. And again, this has nothing to do with a drug or a disease. This has to do with the right, not just the right. It's not about rights. It's about who is sovereign. So here's the question. Do you smell what I smell? It's the sweet smell of resistance. And I think it's important that we remember the God-given authority each of us carries, our own sovereignty, the ability for each of us to say, get behind me, Satan, leave, tyrant, you have no power here because we do not accept your authority. This is Mike Levitt, and you've been listening to And If Love Remains.